Hello and welcome to another bonus episode of Catechize James Bond. I am November Kelly, joined as always by my friends Abigail Thorne and Devon.
Hello.
Hello.
And it's a bonus episode, and I thought as we had that interesting discussion at the end of The Wicker Man, I would sort of ruthlessly exploit that opportunity to make my friends watch 3 hours of Martin Scorsese being extremely Catholic by picking the movie.
Which is why on this episode we're joined by a very special guest, God himself.
And he's here tonight.
Welcome to the podcast.
Very good. Very, very good.
That joke will make sense in about 90 minutes.
Yeah.
That's set up and then later you
Yeah. So I picked the movie Silence, right, which is a really, really funny first Scorsese movie for us to do. A director who spent like most of his career working with like themes of violence and masculinity, and we pick one of the few movies of his where those are kind of on the back burner.
I hadn't heard of this.
Yeah.
And it came out in 2016 and has a stacked cast, and I this wasn't on my radar.
It was a huge failure commercially.
Yeah, it was
and
not.
Really?
Yeah,
It was a
it
bomb.
was a real, and forgive me for the pun, it was a real passion project, right? Because he had wanted to make this for like 20 years, had like tried and failed a bunch of times. Everybody in this movie is working for scale or below it. And it's really like, I'm going to make this deeply sincere religious film, and all of the movies about like, you know, mob guys shooting each other are going to pay for it. Not that they're not important, but this is what it's for.
This was
right?
Martin Scorsese's Megalopolis, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was his
He
Megalopolis.
wanted to make this for 25 years, I'm seeing.
Megalopolis brackets Catholic.
That makes me like it more, I think.
It's
Like, well, good for you. I'm glad you got to make your thing that I don't think I quite understand and get, but I'm glad you got to do it.
yeah, well, we'll get to it. But like I said, I think it is really funny that we did this instead of any of the mob ones first. We'll get to those, I'm sure. You know, maybe we'll get a slightly more narrowly defined organized crime season. But
I think that comes under robbery season, right?
Oh yeah, there's definitely robbery. Like Goodfellas is mostly about robberies. Yeah, sure.
This is Godfellas, though.
That's true.
This is Godfellas, indeed.
So we start
we meet our
with
first fellas of God.
Yes. We start with the opening titles, which I really like because they're quite austere, where you just get like cicadas, right? Like crickets, right? And this kind of like nature sort of like
Soundscape, sound bath.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts off completely, and you get the title card, Silence, with the signs, which is very
would have been
stylish.
very effective if I'd been watching it in a cinema instead of on my sort of cum-speckled laptop screen.
Don't buy some
You gotta
screen
clean
wipes,
your
woman.
screen.
I have it. You can just
I was
buy
kidding.
them.
My screen is very clean, you know me.
I do. This, nonetheless, I'm going to be thinking about the phrase "cum speckled laptop screen" for the rest of the episode. So, but we open on Liam Neeson, Qui-Gon Jinn himself, looking quite Qui-Gon Jinn because he's got the hair grown out in the robes, who is having a bad time, let's say.
Yeah, one of the worst times, actually, I'd say.
Because
it's Japan, it's 1633, so it's about 4:30. And Christians are being boiled alive slowly.
Yeah.
It's a very creative form of torture, this.
Oh yeah, it's sadistic, and there's a lot of sadistic torture in this. It is a movie about violence in part, right?
I watched this on Amazon.com, which means I got to see my favorite character right away, which is man speaking Japanese subtitle over the subtitle that said what he was saying in Japanese. Thank you so much, Amazon, for doing that to me every fucking time I try to watch a movie.
I didn't get the translation. I just got man speaking Japanese, and I was like, okay,
wonderful.
He is doing that.
He sure is.
So they're torturing several Christians, and they are making Liam Neeson watch, right? And over this, you get the voiceover of a letter that Liam Neeson is writing to his boss in Macau, who we will see later. Yeah, no, his more direct, his line manager, right? Who is another priest.
Okay.
And there are a few interesting things here, right? He notes that the priests who are being tortured in these like hot springs asked to be tortured. so that they could demonstrate the strength of their faith and the presence of God within them. And then you note that Liam Neeson is not being tortured, and you go, what does that say about him that he didn't, right? And instead is being made to watch. Another thing I really like that's quite sort of a quiet detail is it's a really tightly framed shot on him, and he's being held by two guards. And one of the guards is like visibly disturbed by what he's seeing, by all the torture, and is like uncomfortable. And they don't do anything with that. It doesn't go anywhere. I like that as just a little kind of detail of conscience, you know?
Yeah. They're putting boiling water from the hot springs into a kind of colander on the end of a stick, and then they sort of give these priests a very, very hot shower.
And it's all like steam and mist, which gives Martin Scorsese a lot of freedom to use those in his compositions. And boy, is he. Every shot in this movie is beautiful and like at least the ones you can see are. A lot of them are very dark. We'll get to some of the inside scenes there.
So, he writes this letter back to two of the lads, the boys of all time.
Yeah.
It's Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Looking alarmingly young and alarmingly thin as very, very young priests. They're being read this letter by their, again, line manager, Father Valignano. Kieran Hines, guy we love to see.
Welcome back. Sinister religious figure returning once again, Kieran Hines.
Absolutely.
He's really good at it.
That's the devil from Ghost Rider 2.
We gotta do Ghost Rider 2.
It's a thing I really like is that you merge Liam Neeson's voiceover of his letter and Kieran Hines reading it, and they merge together on the line.
We only grow stronger in his love.
Which is good. It's a little bit freaky getting it in stereo, but I like the approach there. So these two priests are Liam Neeson was their mentor, right? They were his Padawans.
Yeah.
And
that's how Jesuits work, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, of the things that have ripped off the Catholic Church for artistic inspiration, you've got to also put Star Wars on the list, I'm afraid.
Definitely.
So we'll get to like Warhammer 40K in another movie, probably. So they were his Padawans. He was their teacher, their confessor, and he has disappeared in Japan. This was the last letter he sent, which was, it's not going great because people are getting tortured.
And this was years ago because they didn't have email.
Yeah, they had to like smuggle the letter all the way back to Macau.
Yeah, and Valignano was like, I heard a rumor when I got this letter that Ferreira, Liam Neeson, had apostatized, right? He had denied God, he had renounced his faith in public, and
is now living as a Japanese.
Which you only live twice jokes write themselves.
He's gone entirely Japanese.
He has gone entirely Japanese, yes.
Cautionary tale.
Yeah, he's gone, he's kind of gone native, actually.
Yeah, and he's like, we cannot forgive this rather odd mixture of styles because you're not supposed to do that. And
can you explain to me a little bit about, like, because I don't have a concept for how bad this is? Because when I was just like, well, if it's like a choice between deny your faith or get tortured to death, I would have thought it's like entirely reasonable to go, yes, actually, I think I'll just live here and be happy. So how bad is this in like Jesuit land?
This is the kind of theological dispute at the heart of the movie.
This is the core of it, I believe. Yeah.
But yeah, and we can get right into it. But so like ordinarily, apostasy is like it's real bad, right? You get like excommunicated automatically kind of thing. What they're talking about here, they are, talking about whether or not Ferreira is like damned eternally and is going to go to hell off of this, right? Which is partially why the two priests are like, well, we don't believe it, right? It can't be true. Yeah. We don't want to just concede that he is going to die an apostate and go to hell, right?
But I guess what I'm wondering is, because we see they're like, we're going to go to Japan and we're going to find him. What I'm wondering is this like a Rambo 2 situation where like we're going to go and get him back? Or is this like we're going to go and get him and like make him a prisoner because now he's done a crime?
Andrew Garfield's character, Rodriguez, goes like, he's talking about even if this guy is still alive and has apostatized, we need to get to him so that he can be like, he can rejoin the faith.
Yeah, it's Rambo 2.
Yeah, it is Rambo 2.
Okay.
I think you know the deal at this point. If you want to hear the rest of that episode of Kill James Bond, you're going to have to head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/KillJamesBond, all one word, and sign up today for as little as £5 a month.